Hey, this is Mary and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about 10 things you should know before moving to Panama or Portugal. I have lived in Panama for almost 3 years and now I am living in Portugal. I've been living here for almost 6 months. So I have experience living in both of the most popular countries for expats. So if you are trying to make your decision and moving abroad, then stay tuned because I'm going to talk to you about the comparisons between both countries, Panama and Portugal. And also at the end or towards the end of this video, I'm going to answer some of the common questions that you might have before deciding between these two countries. So don't click off. All right, so let's talk about the first thing. The first thing we're going to talk about is climate and weather. Okay, so Panama has 2 seasons, wet and dry. It's either hot or humid. I mean, you could take a shower in Panama and go out the doors and you are like drenched in sweat. Very hot and humid. Now you can get cooler temperatures if you go up to the northern area of Panama, Buquete, or up in the mountain area. You can get some cooler temps. But for the majority, Panama City is hot and humid. That's where the majority of the expats live. One thing that I love about Portugal is that Portugal has 4 seasons, okay? I came here as a scouting trip in October, which was beautiful weather. And then I got to come back during the winter season, and it's cold, but it wasn't like in the 30s or anything like that. So it wasn't. They said it was a mild winter. I love the idea of being able to wear, sweaters and boots again. So I grew up in Delaware, so I love different seasons. So right now we are in, I don't know if summer's hit yet. I think we're at the beginning of summer, which is the tail end of spring, and the weather here is beautiful. I don't need AC yet. I have my windows open so I get a nice cross breeze, and sometimes I pull out this little small fan, but I haven't really been hot in here yet. I'm saying yet, because I'm sure summer is coming. So those are 2 differences in the climate and the weather. So Panama has more of a tropical climate, and Portugal has more of a Mediterranean climate. All right, so let's talk about healthcare. Number 2 is going to be healthcare quality and access. Both Panama and Portugal have public and private healthcare. Most people in Panama choose private health care, whether they're paying out of pocket because the health care costs are pretty economical, or they might have private health insurance. Here in Portugal, once you become a resident, you are able to use the public healthcare system. I am in the process of getting my residency, and one of the conditions to get your residency here in Portugal is that you have to have private health care. So I am just getting my private health care. There was a 90-day grace period. So I'm over my grace period. I am like scheduling all of my appointments. I'm doing like an overall physical. So I'll do a whole nother video about that experience because I have appointments scheduled for next month. But what I wanted to say is that I think you can get both quality health care in both Panama and Portugal. Now, if you have pre-existing conditions or something like that, then I would suggest you do some research in whatever country you're interested in to make sure they have those particular medical services that you may require. All right, so number 3, we're going to talk about cost of living. Now, cost of living to me is like, I won't say it's a hard thing because I think it also depends on your budget. They used to say that Panama, was a low-cost area, but I think it depends on you. It depends on your living standard. It depends on if you want local foods or if you are chasing all of the American brands. Anything that you can recognize the name on it is probably going to be imported, so it's going to cost more. So if you're stuck on certain brands of food or anything like that, then you're going to have a higher, that's going to increase your cost of living. I think groceries and utility costs, depending on where you live in Panama, some utility costs are higher than others for a strange reason. I don't know. The older building seems to have the lower utility costs, but the more newer condos or apartments in Panama, the electricity was really high. And that's one thing you need to consider also budget at in your rental costs, because you're going to be using your AC a whole lot more in Panama. So that's going to increase your utility bill. Here in Portugal, once again, because it's seasonal, the last time I used my heat was, I can't remember, maybe 2 months ago or something like that. So right now I'm not using anything, so my utilities are pretty low right now. My phone bill is low. The rents are pretty much depending on, where you live and what type of place you get. But so I'm going to say, as far as which one is cheaper, I'm going to say it depends on your lifestyle, because both places have markets that you can get local fruits and vegetables, and you can also get the local things in the whatever country you're in. So I think if you stick to the local products and buying the local fruits and vegetables, you can have a pretty much, I'm not going to say low cost of living, I'm going to say lower cost of living than what you're used to in the United States, because low is really relative depending on your budget. All right. Okay, so let's talk about housing and rentals. Now, I think the price for housing and rentals depends on whether or not you're going to get a furnished or an unfurnished apartment. I have lived in both furnished and unfurnished in Panama. When I first came to Panama, like everybody else, I had a furnished apartment. And then when it was time for me to move and look for another place, as I was looking for furnished apartments, some of the furniture is not that great. Some of the owners, don't care about having good furniture because they're renting it out. So I opted for an unfurnished apartment. Here in Portugal, the same thing. When I first was looking for apartments, I was looking for a furnished apartment. And then I said, okay, let me see some unfurnished, because the furnished apartments that I saw that were available to me at the time that I looked, they were horrible. So I decided it can't be that difficult. I'm going to go with an unfurnished. So the rent is going to depend on, of course, the unfurnished apartments are going to be at a lower rate, okay, than a furnished apartment. And also apartments are going to depend on how many bedrooms you have. So the best thing to do is, whatever your budget is, to maybe take a look at the apartment websites that are native to your particular country and see what you can get, see what's out there in your particular budget. And don't take this lightly. Make sure you do a lot of research, because what I also found is that prices can go up or down, and it also depends on who's renting the apartment. When I was looking in Portugal, it was like this brand new apartment building that this one realtor showed me this really small apartment for like double the price that I'm paying here. In my head, I was like, why is this apartment so expensive? And I think because as an expat, someone from the US, I guess he was thinking I wanted something close to that. So he was talking about the amenities in this particular apartment building. I mean, it was massive. It had apartments everywhere. So I said, okay, let me go look at the gym. Oh my gosh, they had the gym was located like in this basement which was like a maze even trying to get there. So it wasn't anything that I wanted. If I'm looking for different things, I'm looking for a different lifestyle. That's why I left Panama and came to Portugal, because I was looking for something different. So I think your rentals are going to depend on lots of things. Your apartment rentals, what you can afford, what's available at the time that you're looking. Are there a lot of apartments available? If there's a large supply of apartments, which most of the time there is, make sure you negotiate, because they're going to have some high price tag on these rentals, and do not take that price. Any apartment that I have moved into, I've negotiated to get the price down lower, even in this place right here. So make sure you negotiate. That's the number one rule. Don't take the price. So as far as apartment and rentals, both places, Panama and Portugal, have plenty things for rent. Of course, they are saying that because expats are moving to these countries, the rents are probably have raised since they were, several years ago. Supply versus demand is more popular, so they can raise the rates. However, you can still negotiate, especially when there's like a lot of apartments available. And don't go outside your budget. Don't worry about what somebody else is paying, because the prices fluctuate based on the owner. Okay, so you can't say, like, if somebody got an apartment for $1,500, you might find the same apartment with the same number of bedrooms, and somebody might be trying to get $2,500. All right, I know it doesn't always make sense. Most of the time it doesn't. So just stick within your budget. But you should be able to find, depending on what your budget is, something in both countries. You might have to go outside of the main areas. For instance, there's areas outside of Panama City that, of course, less expensive to live. In the popular cities like Porto and Lisbon, you go outside of these countries, you're going to find in smaller cities or smaller areas, you're going to find the rents are going to go down. So that's probably where it is anywhere you go. Okay, number 5, internet and infrastructure. I don't think any of these countries have a problem. They both have fast internet. You can both, get your internets upgraded. They both have high-speed internets, even in the smaller communities. I think both countries don't have a major problem with that. I think there might have been some incidents in some more rural areas in Panama that might have slower internet connections. I know I wasn't in a rural area, but for whatever reason, my apartment complex, I had some dead spots in my apartment in Panama. So depending on where I was at, the internet wasn't that great. I haven't had that problem here. Wherever I'm at in this apartment, this is a 3-bedroom, 3-bath. No matter where I am, the internet is working. So maybe I have to give Portugal a little plus for better internet. All right, number 6, language barrier. Okay, so of course, Panama is a Spanish-speaking country, and Portugal, of course, they speak Portuguese here. Matter of fact, they speak all kinds of things here because it's a very diverse country as well. So you're going to hear all kinds of languages here. Of course, English is not the dominant language in either one of these countries. So although I did not learn, I wasn't fluent in Spanish, of course, when I lived in Panama, but I knew enough to order a meal or greet someone. And because I was there for so long, I started to understand what people were saying, okay? So I could know exactly what you were saying. Now, I couldn't always answer you in Spanish or speak it back to you, but of course with language apps, you can communicate with anyone. So here in Portuguese, I think the language is much harder to learn than Spanish, but I do know that some of the words are similar in Spanish. They might be pronounced differently, but some of them are, excuse me, some of them are similar. So, but when they speak Portuguese fast, I'm like, what was that? So it's going to be a process picking up this language here. But I'm going to give myself grace and, learn the basic phrases and kind of like just go from there. But I think in both countries, if you learn the basic languages, the basic greetings, and you have a smile and you're being polite and you're patient, then I think anyone can navigate their way through the country. Yeah, so that's how I feel about that. I was in Panama for almost 3 years and did fine. And here I'm in Portugal. I've done so many things on my own here and haven't had a problem. So, because most people speak maybe just a little English, but normally, they might pull out their app first. I pull out my app and we laugh and we get it done. So my suggestion as far as language is, if you can, start learning some basic phrases and learn it. I plan on learning Portuguese. It's hard, but hey, nothing good comes easy. So, okay, number 7, lifestyle and culture. Okay, so Panama is more of a Caribbean type, Latin type, atmosphere. Panama, depending on where you're at, can be, laid back as well. You're going to get, some annual, festivals and annual celebrations that go along. There, might be a couple of, spots that you can go listen to some live music. A lot of rooftop restaurants and bars that you can go to throughout Panama City. Not much going on out in the beach area. So that's another thing when you're deciding where to live in Panama or any of these countries. If entertainment is important to you, then you have to think about what's going on in that particular area. Here in Portugal, I think it depends on where you live as far as the lifestyle. In the Lisbon area, of course, there's going to be plenty more things to do, whether it's activities or festivals or concerts or something's always happening every day, all day long. I am in Porto, which is the oldest city here in Portugal. A lot of history. A matter of fact, Portugal as a country itself has a lot of history. But Porto is not as busy as Lisbon. It's more, a slower paced lifestyle, a more laid back, but there's enough going on. You can be as busy or as less busy as you want. I went to their annual St. Charles Festival, which celebrated the birth of St. John the Baptist. I did a video about that and went by myself, left my apartment like about 9:15 in the evening, and it was fantastic. I mean, I had such a great time. So there's plenty to do around here because Portugal is, the country itself attracts a lot of tourists, just like Panama. So there's going to be things going on. So I think here I would definitely have to give it to Portugal as far as being have more diverse activities, because there's just so much you can do here in Portugal. So I like that better. But both countries you can find stuff to do. They both have, beaches. They both have mountain areas. Portugal has a wine country. I mean, it's just a lot going on here. You could be in Portugal and not leave the country and just do all kinds of stuff and have different vibes and different atmospheres, no matter, depending on where you go. So for me, I think overall, at this particular time in my life, Portugal has a better lifestyle and culture for me. Okay, number 8, visas and residency. Okay, so Panama, hands down, has a more easier visa and residency program. The pensionado visa, the retirement visa, which is very popular in Panama, hands down the most easiest and straightforward visa between the two countries. I have an entire video. I'll put these videos in the description. It tells you exactly step by step how to get your visa in Panama. Very straightforward, easy. Portugal, I am right now in the process of getting my D7 visa. I got to do a whole nother video about that because it is a process. It is, to me, no way simple. This is some of the bureaucracy that people complain about here in Portugal because it's slower paced, and so things don't move as fast. They're not in a rush to get things done. So you got to be patient. Oh my gosh, you have to be patient. So yeah. So if you're looking to get things done really quickly and that's all you're concerned about, then Panama would be your place. But if you got a little bit more patience and you want to have, the European lifestyle, access to that, then Portugal. Because I lived in Panama and traveled throughout Central and South America, it was time for a change for me. So, and because I wanted to explore the European countries, I chose Portugal. So there's pros and cons to both countries. All right. Okay, travel and location. Number 9, travel and location. Okay, so Panama, of course, is closer to the U.S. There's direct flights straight to the U.S. Although in Portugal, there's direct flights, because I took a direct flight from Newark, New Jersey on TAP Portugal, which is a Portuguese airline, directly into Portugal. So they do have direct flights also. But of course, Panama is closer. One of the benefits as far as traveling in Panama with the pensionado visa is that you get 25% off your airfare. So I use that a lot in all of my travels when I was living in Panama. So that's a really good benefit. But you know why I don't miss that benefit here in Portugal? Because the flights here to all these European countries are so much cheaper than flying from Panama. I mean, I could spend $100, $200, maybe $300. I can be in Italy, I can be in Croatia, I can be in Turkey, I can be in France, I can be in Morocco. All of these places for very reasonable prices. So I'm not going to miss that 25% at all because I don't even need it. Because the 25% discount that I was getting is the actual price or lower, or the airfare is lower here for me to travel to all of these places. So because Portugal is close, centrally located in Europe, you can do so much travel here for very reasonable prices. So if you need to be closer to the U.S., I guess Panama might be a better choice for you, but you can also get to the U.S. from here too. But if you're interested in more travel to all the European countries, then Portugal opens up, a whole new continent for you. So, all right, number 10, expat community and diversity. Okay, so I think both countries have large and very active expat communities. You can find groups on Facebook. You can find WhatsApp groups. You can find Discord groups. I mean, everybody is communicating right now in this expat world. So I think it's up to you to research these communities, start connecting with people in these communities. Most of these communities have meetups, monthly meetups. They have, activities going on. So like I said earlier, you can decide how busy you want to be. Do you want to be actively trying to meet people and go to every meetup? Or do you want to meet people authentically? Do you want to take your time? It's totally up to you. But there are all sorts of racial diversities in both of the countries. Depending on where you're at. In Panama City has a very large number of expats. It has a larger number, but there also is a whole large number of expats in the beach areas and also in Phuket. So you can find those separate communities no matter where you are. In Portugal, I noticed, and I've only been here 6 months, but there's growing expat communities. There's really a large one in Lisbon. There's one here in Porto. There's in Aveiro, in Algarve. I mean, there are like little expat communities kind of like all around. So once you get into these WhatsApp groups or these Facebook groups, whatever, like I said, you can decide how busy you want to be. All right. So those are the 10 things that you should know before you decide to move to Panama or Portugal. So right now, we're going to get into, so it's really going to be up to you. I mean, you're going to have to think about your lifestyle. You're going to have to think about, what are the type of things that I like to do? What do I want my living environment to be? I always say, what do you want your everyday life to look like? So you're going to have to make a decision about which country you want to move in. And make sure you do your research, because I can only say so much. It's kind of like you have to do the boot on the ground sort of thing. You got to come out and visit. All right. So let's get into the Q&A section. I want to answer some of the most common questions that I have received regarding moving to Panama or Portugal. Okay, the first question, excuse me for a second. Let me get something to drink. This is a celery juice that I made. It has celery, cucumber, kiwi, pineapple, and ginger. It's delicious. Okay, let's get into these questions. Number 1, which country is easier to get residency in? Oh, I think I already answered that. Panama, no question about it. Panama has a straightforward process. Make sure you contact a lawyer to make sure you get it done. You need to have a lawyer to get a visa in Panama. In Portugal, I don't think you need one, but I think it's kind of recommended, but you can actually do the entire process on your own. So because it's more, it takes more time, takes more paperwork, but it can still be done. Okay, number 2, where can I live more comfortably on $2,500 a month, either Panama or Portugal? I'm going to probably say, you know what, it's kind of hard, but I'm going to probably say you might be able to get more for your money in Panama on $2,500 a month. But it's also going to depend on the building. It's going to depend on the location, because you also have to factor in utilities. So, yeah. Can you get a small apartment here for that price? Yeah, you can. I mean, I'm in a 3-bedroom for a whole lot less than that price. So yeah, I think it depends on if you want to eat out in restaurants, you got to factor in all of that stuff. That's why it's really hard to answer that question, because are you going to be eating out? Are you going to want a gym membership? Are you going to want a nanny? Somebody, not a nanny, well, if you have kids. Are you going to want somebody to come clean your house? So you got to factor all of that stuff in when you're thinking about how much it's going to cost you to live somewhere. But I think it's doable in both places. You might not be able to get the same size apartment, but definitely doable. Okay. Number 3, which country is better if I have a pre-existing health condition? So, pre-existing health condition. I think I mentioned that before. I think depending on your pre-existing condition, you would probably want to reach out to make sure they have adequate medical professions. Both Panama and Portugal have really, I think, strong health care. Portugal has a large public health care system that I'll be eligible for once I get my residency card. Panama healthcare system, the private hospitals are very good. I mean, I've been to several of them for things. So I think you can probably get both care done. The medical care Portugal might edge out Panama just a little bit in the medical care, but I think both countries you should be able to find quality medical care. Okay, number 4. Is it hard to find long-term housing as an expat? I don't think so, but it's probably easier in Panama because you don't need to have any requirements to find a rental. You don't need to have a bank account. You don't need to have references for leases. You don't need to have a NIF number, which is like your identification here number in Portugal. You can just reach out to somebody, and if you got the money, you can get it. So it's probably easier to get a long-term apartment in Panama, but both you can get it done. Portugal just has more paperwork. Okay, which country makes it easier to travel and explore? I'm probably going to have to say Portugal, because it's going to be more cheaper, and the countries are a whole lot closer together. You don't have to travel as far. So, and the public transportation here is so much better than Panama. So that's one thing that I think I left out when I was talking about the 10 things you must know. But traveling to me and exploring around Portugal is so much easier than doing that in Panama, because Portugal has a very good metro system that connects all throughout the areas. They have a really good train system. They also have a really good bus system. Panama has a metro, but it doesn't go throughout the city. Only some areas, they do have buses. But trying to catch a bus in Panama is like a whole nother experience. Sometimes the big bus turns into like a little small bus. So that's a whole nother experience. And there's no trains in Panama. You're gonna have to fly somewhere. So overall, exploring and traveling around Portugal, no question about it. Can I get by, number 6, can I get by without speaking the local language? You can get by. I think it was probably easier to get by in Panama. You might run into, I think both countries now that I'm exploring, there's more English speaking people that I realize are here also in Portugal. So you can get by in either country, but it's best to learn the language to the best of your ability. All right, that's how I answer that one. Number 7, what are the biggest hidden costs in each country? Hidden costs. I would say in Panama, hidden costs could be I think anything imported is going to cost you like 3 times more or something like that. And if you have like a health scare and you don't have insurance, that could be a hidden cost. So if you are not going to get like private health care, have a credit card that you know use for emergencies, because sometimes if you're going into Panama hospital, you have to like put a deposit down before they will see you. So that could be a hidden cost in Panama. Let's see if there are any hidden costs. I don't know if there are hidden costs in Portugal, but you got to have your finances in order to move here. You got to have money in the bank. You got to have, and even after you've already proved that, that's like part one, putting your application. Then the second part, to get your residency card, they want to see money in the bank again. So I think you need to have your finances in order if you're going to move to Portugal. So there's visa costs in both countries. One thing about Portugal that we didn't have in Panama. You had a deposit for an apartment in Panama, but in here, it could be twice the apartment deposits that you're required. I think it's my understanding that an owner can request 2 months deposit and also 2 months rent in advance. So that's 4 months that you might have to pay in order to move into an apartment in Portugal. So when I say you got to have your finances together, you got to have your finances together. Okay, number 8. Which country feels safer for solo women? I think relatively both countries are pretty safe. Now also use common sense no matter where you are, check your surroundings. But I have been out late by myself in both countries and have never felt unsafe. Of course, no matter where you are, some countries have areas or neighborhoods that are not as safe as the majority of the areas. So just use your common sense and don't put yourself in situations that are going to, make you feel unsafe. Like, don't go out by yourself and get so drunk that you don't even know, where you're at, which I don't drink. So hopefully nobody's doing stuff like that. So don't put yourself in a situation to be taken advantage of. All right? So, number 9, which one offers a better wellness lifestyle? Which one offers a better wellness lifestyle? I'm going to probably say Portugal, because for me, I was looking for an area that I could walk around in. And Panama in the city is somewhat walkable, okay? Because of the uneven sidewalks, you might walk into like a hole in the sidewalk or stuff like that, and cars flying everywhere, and not having to watch yourself when you're trying to cross the street or whatever, because they don't really honor the pedestrian areas. They will just come flying through in Panama. But what I love about Portugal is that there's a lot of pedestrian-only streets, okay? So that's the kind of lifestyle that I was craving, that I was looking for. There's like true walkable areas where you're not going to see any cars. I mean, you can just walk and walk and walk. So I love that. I'll go walking to the market or walking here, and I might have to cross maybe one somewhat busy street. In Panama City, horns flying, blowing, everything's busy. It's busy, busy, busy. The whole aesthetics are just cars and high rises. That's all you see. In Portugal, you walk out, you walk out the door and you're so visually stimulated. And so to me, wellness, is also comes with your mental. So you're visually stimulated. So you're you're smiling and it makes you feel better, and you can walk. So of course your cardio is going to be better, and you're not breathing a whole lot of smog, and so the wellness part, hands down, is Portugal, and that's why I'm here. Okay, number 10. Can I do a trial run in both before moving permanently? Yeah, absolutely. I believe in Panama, you can stay for 6 months without a visa. That's a long trial one, but you can do it easily. And here in Portugal, not only Portugal, but the Shanghai area, which covers maybe 17 different countries, you could stay, I believe, for tourists, 90 days in a 180-day period. So definitely I recommend, if you're considering a country, to go there and actually stay there for a while and live like a local. Don't stay in a hotel. Try to get an Airbnb, shop at the cafes, walk around the city, go into the grocery stores, and see what it feels like living there, so you can get a better understanding. Try to talk to some expats that are living there to try to get like a flow of the area, things like that. Okay, so I hope this has cleared up some of your questions, gave you some things to consider whether or not you're thinking about moving abroad to either Panama or Portugal. We talked about 10 of the things that you should know. So tell me in the comments, which one are you leaning towards? Do you think Panama is a better fit for you, or is Portugal a better fit? And if you have found this video to be of some value, it's just a small way to support the channel free and support me. Make sure you like and subscribe and share the video to anyone that you think may find this knowledgeable. All right, thank you so much for watching, and what I'll do is I'll put the descriptions of the videos that I mentioned in the description, but I'm also going to be putting here and here. You'll have a playlist of all the videos that I did in Panama, so you can look at several things and get different information about living in Panama. And I also started a playlist about my life here in Portugal, so you'll be able to watch those videos as well. Okay, once again, thank you so much for being here today, and if you made it to this end, I really appreciate it. And have a good day, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye. I'm trying to stop the video.